Okay, it is 6:07. Welcome everybody to our Solarize Fairbanks 2021 kickoff. My name is Alyssa Quinton. I am a community organizer here in Fairbanks with the Alaska Center, part of the core team, and I just want to thank you all for joining us on a Thursday evening as we talk about our favorite thing in the world. We have a packed presentation for you. We're planning on going about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. If you all are joining and a little bit new to the Zoom webinar function, you don't have to worry about video or muting, unmuting, just to make things much easier and streamlined as we go through our presentation with you all here. We have some wonderful folks joining us that I really want to introduce you all, and we'll have some trivia. So we'll get to test out some of the cool Zoom functions. You're gonna see, if you hover over your bottom panels, you'll see a Q&A and a poll, and we'll get to the polls here a little bit shortly. So let's test that out actually, for everybody. So you're gonna see a little pop-up if you're on our computer or phone. How long have you lived in Alaska? Let's get to know a little bit of our solarizers. Let's see. We're getting some responses.
Mine is not allowing me to vote.
Who was that?
Joe Paskvan.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hello.
Oh, that is because you are accidentally a panelist, and I'm not sure. Zoom. I'm not sure how to make you a not panelist without removing you entirely from the webinar.
You just fixed it now, Joe, so you should be able to vote.
Oh, thank goodness. Zoom, what can we do? All right, three more people, and I'll end it. Go ahead and type it in or select your thing. How long have you lived in Alaska?
Shall we look at the results?
Let's do it. 11 years. Okay, we got a couple people where it's there, it's a couple months, first 1, 3 years, but 11. So right with you. Well, thanks all for testing out that function with us. We'll go ahead and get started here. Let's just take a moment here to recognize that we are on the lands of the Chena, Dene, Lower Tanana peoples of the Setateka, the Solchak, and the Tanana tribes here. And as we are talking about Solarize and what it means to be, in community together with this community-led initiative, we want to recognize the stewardship and the wisdom that has created not just the space, but the place for us to really learn how to be good stewards on this journey of community-led solar. So thank you all again for joining. Let's go ahead and get into some introductions. We have a lovely panel that I want to introduce you folks to. I'm just going to pass on the mic here to Jamie. You want to lead us off?
Sure, thanks, Alyssa. I'm Jamie Hansen. I work with Information Insights, and I'm, along with Alyssa and Lisa, who will come up next, helped a bunch with the Solarize 2020 campaign. So Lisa, how about you?
Yep, and I'm Lisa Baff, and I think I know a few of you that are chiming in other than the panelists, and it's good to see you all, at least in name. And I'm here in my home in Esther, in the hills of Esther, and I work at the Northern Alaska Environmental Center and have been working on the Solarize campaign since It started as an idea to bring it to Fairbanks back in 2018 and have worked as part of the core team with Alyssa and Jamie. Am I supposed to pass it? All righty, well, I will pass it to Casey.
Thanks, Lisa. My name is Casey. I also work at Information Insights, and I helped out with Solarize last year. I'm a longtime Fairbanksan, and really excited to be doing this again. Bruno.
Hi, I'm Bruno Gruno with the Cold Climate Housing Research Center. Or I work at the Cold Climate Housing Research Center, which is part of NREL. And though I'm acting as a citizen in this situation, and I've really been on the periphery and more of a support role here with Solarize. You're looking at the core group are these other folks here. I can't take credit for any of that stuff, but yeah. Great to meet everybody, and I don't know who to pass the ball to. Alyssa, maybe?
And I am going to pass it along to Richard.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. Richard Vicente, I work for Golden Valley. I'll be explaining a little bit about how the SNAP program works, which is the Solarize, what the Solarize participants will be actively participating in through Golden Valley. So look forward to that discussion.
Thanks, Rich.
How do I pass it along?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it along to Ben.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ben Leffler. I'm an engineer at the Alaska Center for Energy and Power at UAF, and I'm providing sort of technical support on the hardware and economic sizing side for the Solarize effort.
Thank you, Ben. And of course, last but not least, Anne.
Hi all, my name is Anne. I'm an energy justice organizer with Fairbanks Climate Action Coalition. This is my first year with Solarize helping out, and I'm just here today as tech support, so happy to be here.
Thank you again. And once again, I am Alyssa Quinton, community organizer here with the Alaska Center and part of the core team. Let's just get cracking and rolling into this presentation. Like I said, if you can see on the overview, we have a packed presentation. We'll go over, what Solarize Fairbanks is. And now with a year under our belt and heading into our second, we'll go over the highlights and the lessons of what we learned and how we're adjusting. We'll talk about the importance of energy efficiency and how that can save you a buck or two when you're talking about solar and what you want your panels to look like. We'll go over the inner workings of a Solarize campaign and how to make it successful, to all the roles that play a part in making Solarize Fairbanks Solarize. And of course, we'll talk about exactly how to get started and how you apply all this information we're giving to you. And again, we'll have Q&A at the end. Now, again, if you are a little bit new to this function, we'll talk about if you want to ask a question, go ahead and hover over the last your bottom panel here, and you'll see a Q&A function, and you can type your answer in there, and we will be able at the end of the presentation to look through those and answer those questions with you all. If you are calling in or can't see that function, you are more than welcome to either give Casey a text, and you can reach her at 907-888-0919. Or if you prefer email, you can shoot Anne an email at Anne, ANNE, at fbxclimateaction.org. All lowercase, no underscores, no spaces, things like that. All right. I say let's get to rolling in here. So without further ado, who exactly is Solarize Fairbanks? You can hit to the next slide there. Solarize Fairbanks is a community-led solar energy initiative that aims to make solar much more equitable, accessible, and affordable to all residents here in our town and beyond. We are a coalitional and volunteer effort supported by many organizations down here. My organization, the Alaska Center, to ACEP, to Information Insights, Northern Center, FCAC, and Native Movement. And this is all a part in supporting our communities right here in the interior, making this possible. Hit the next one there. You know, our solarizing journey has been a short but strong one. We always pay homage to our early beginnings with one of my previous coworkers, Kristen Collins, who piloted Solarize Anchorage in Anchorage. And throughout that process, we were up here, you know, folks that are now part of the Solarize Fairbanks Coalition, looking at the success of Solarize Anchorage in its first year and thinking, well, how do we bring this opportunity to Fairbanks and make it work? So from our humble beginnings to the CCHRC meeting rooms, we hosted our first kickoff 2 years ago now, because it's 2021, in a packed room in the downstairs like meeting gathering hall in CCHRC, where we had 100 people joining. And that's when it was clear that this was definitely the initiative that Fairbanksans wanted. We were able in 2020 to get many different communities interested, and we had 3 communities that were able to stick it through, especially with the pandemic. We were able to host in-person meetings at the earlier side of 2020, and of course, when the pandemic hit our community here, we were as resilient as ever, and we were able to go digital to keep not only our team here safe, but all of you and our installers. Installations went through, and we see some pictures here of those installations happening earlier last year. So shout out to Todd Paris and Fred Meyer and folks at RAS, Renewable Energy Systems, and many other solarizers for all of their installation and community workshop pictures, because it's your content that makes our content look really good. So thank you all for that. You can hit to the next one there. And you know what? The solar and clean energy bug is spreading. You know, of course, we have Solarize Fairbanks and Solarize Anchorage, and I'll pass it to Jamie because, hey, we got 2 other things happening in our state. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So in 2020, I believe there was also the launch of Solarize Kenai. And this year, or right at the end of the last year, Alaska's first thermalized campaign kicked off. So it uses the Solarize model, but it's to accelerate heat pump adoption. And that's happening in Juneau. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. So first, I want to take a minute to talk about, so what is a Solarize campaign? So Solarize campaigns, they've been held across the country, big cities, small towns, to accelerate installation of solar PV panels on buildings, homes, businesses, nonprofits, and more. And using this model, Solarize Fairbanks, is aiming to make it easier and more affordable to go solar in Fairbanks and maybe the interior. And, you know, I want to define exactly what we're talking about here. And so there are 3 primary elements to the Solarize campaign. First off, it's defining a solarized area. So it usually is a neighborhood. It could also be an organization or a congregation of people who consider themselves as part of a group that has some distinct boundaries. And second, within that solarizing area, organizers basically put together a group purchasing campaign. So here's an example of what that would be. I have a friend who lives in Aurora. There's lots of driveways in Aurora, and her driveway was in really bad shape. So she and some neighbors got together and organized some of their neighbors who also want to get some work done. And they found a contractor and negotiated a cheaper rate for all of them. That's an example of how this group purchasing campaign works. It basically leverages all of the interest from a defined area to go ahead and negotiate a lower price, in this case, for solar PV panels. And the last part of it is really about recruitment. And you will hear that multiple times throughout this presentation. And that recruitment, typically it's been neighbors recruiting neighbors. It can be friends, it can be others. And that's through word of mouth, it's through meetings, or better yet, it's by neighbors seeing a new solar install going up next door or down the road. Next slide. So what we're doing with this Solarize campaign. From, hold on just a second, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. So for Solarize 2021, I think it's really important to say that it is a community campaign. And with your help, we will support you and others in getting solar PV panels at a lower price. But there's more to this effort than that. One that was actually part of the initial Solarize campaign is energy efficiency. And we're aiming to build out a strong energy efficiency element to the campaign in 2021 and for several other years. For anyone who is interested in energy efficiency, we would be looking at using that group purchasing to secure lower cost energy audits and to connect homes to those auditors. We're hoping to have support on this through a cooperative agreement with the Department of Energy. That's in final negotiations, so we're still not certain if that's going to happen, but I really hope to be able to share more soon about what that will look like for the Solarize 2021 campaign. Another element is inclusivity. So Solarize is for anyone and everyone. If you or your building is right for solar, then you belong with us. And next is financial options. So, once people know the value of solar, there's no question the biggest barrier in going solar is the cost. And so we're working with FCAC, with local and state lenders and others on ways to connect solarizers with good financing options. And to round it all out, it's not the last, it's actually the overarching goal of the campaign is really on that energy equity and accessibility. And this is very much a work in progress, not because it is very much a top goal, but it's one that we are still figuring out how to realize that. And how we're doing that in 2021 is really focusing on that energy efficiency element and on financing so that anyone in this community who wants to participate can participate. All right, next slide. All right, so why do a Solarize Plus, I hope, campaign? And so this is looking at it from your perspective. The first one, top reason, really is that competitive pricing. So Solarize Fairbanks issues an RFP to installers, asking the installers for Solarize base rates and for volume discounts. And the idea is that the more people who sign up, the deeper the discount. In 2020, the Steel Creek campaign saw a 26% reduction in the price per watt of solar PV panels from 2019. Another kind of critical element in doing the Solarize campaign is really about investing in green energy and green energy technology. That's a matter of reducing our carbon costs, but also in terms of basically creating jobs and investing in local businesses that are in the clean energy sector. Another is really about laying out the game plan, right? To make this easier and more accessible, reduce the complexity, and offer support. And basically what we do is we have experts, many of whom are on the panel right now, and we also make those connections with installers so that it is less of a burdensome or unknown process. And finally, kind of all of the above are really at a community level, right? I mean, this is a community campaign, but at the end of the day, though we're all reaping the benefits of this campaign, each homeowner and each business owner is the one who's making a call of what works for them. This is not an effort to force anyone to do anything that they don't want. Instead, it really is about owners reaping the benefits and then making the call about what's right for them in terms of, getting a customized quote from the installer and really determining if the installer or the price is what's going to work for you. And so we've been really excited to watch what's happened in Anchorage, happening in Kenai, and now in Juneau. And we have found that the model, the Solarize model, is successful, and we're very excited to go ahead and see that through in 2021. But I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, because 2020 was not all success. There were lots of really hard challenges.
Yeah, and you can, I'm also going to talk about some of the successes though, too, because they're worth celebrating. 2020, I think most of us can say for various reasons, 2020 was a really hard year. And if you can go to the next slide, we're going to start with some of the successes. And 2020 was our first year. And when we sat in that room in mid-November of 2019 with 100 people in the room and snow coming down and this idea to do this, we had no idea how many people would participate. We knew that we had interest. We absolutely had no idea that there would be a global pandemic. We initially had 5 communities that were interested, including College Road Corridor, which had a number of businesses, and they ended up dropping out because of the pandemic and having other economic considerations. And ultimately, we ended up with 3 communities that carried forward with this campaign. We had 2 local installers respond to our request for proposals. And we ended up through the community campaigns, there were 67 solarizers and over 380 kilowatts installed. And you can see it here on the slide that there were, with Esther and Goldstream worked with one of the installers, ABS Alaskan and Steel Creek, and plus the additional homes and buildings listed below that worked with Renewable Energy Systems, or RES. And there were businesses as well as homes involved. And yeah, there were, like I said, about 11 buildings and an additional 72 kilowatts of solar installed, in addition to those that were within the community campaigns. And that included the Northern Center where I work. And it's pretty exciting to finally have solar on that building. And so despite a pandemic, despite record-breaking rainfall, we still had successes, but not without challenges. And if you can go to the next slide. Actually, nope, there's one more success, sorry. And that is that it also, I think that, and Richard will probably speak more to this, that Jamie and I met with folks from GVA early on in the process in 2020. And again, they asked us what we thought. And we were like, I don't know, maybe 50, we'll see. And again, despite the setbacks, it was an extraordinary increase. And we're working with our utility, investing in our utility, which is a cooperative. And so every one of us who is hooked up to the grid and pays a bill as a member owner. And so you're investing in our cooperative. And as you can see here, GVA saw an extraordinary 52% increase in new SNAP Plus, which is the net metering that'll be spoken of later, members in 2020. And that may well be largely due to the increase through Solarize. Through 2020, like I said, there were 150 new SNAP applications. And some of the totals here are listed that there were, as of the end of the year, 436 SNAP customers, over 2,000 kilowatts of nameplate capacity, and over 6,000 kilowatt hours of electricity produced through solar and net metering. And that's super exciting. So if you can go to the next slide. But as I said, with successes, we had a number of challenges beyond, those that none of us could have foreseen, and, such as the pandemic and the tremendous amount of rain. And through lots of different avenues, we learned of these challenges and then the lessons that emanated from them. And that was through our own experiences, through emails, phone calls, Zoom meetings, debriefs that we've done with different community members and installers and GVA. There was also a participant survey that went out in October. And there were some key takeaways from that. And one of the biggest lessons that we learned, and there was a really tough lesson to learn, was that there was a great deal of disparity in installer satisfaction and the neighborhood campaigns. The community that worked with RES was overwhelmingly satisfied. 80% of the surveys listed them, they were very satisfied with their installer, 20% were satisfied. And for the other installer, ABS Alaskan, over 50% were dissatisfied. There were a number of issues that arose with that installer that were really set a lot of us back, and it was a big challenge. And so we've taken that to heart, and there are a number of actions being taken, and you can see them listed here. The RFP recently went out, that's a request for proposals, and we did not send it to ABS Alaskan, and they will not be invited to participate in this year or in future campaigns for failure to uphold their commitments to their customers, as well as to Solarize Fairbanks. In addition, we're making some changes within the RFP to try to ensure that things that we hadn't foreseen being a possibility will be mitigated and minimized. And that includes some things regarding payment, where within the RFP, when the installers respond to it, they are required to lay out their payment schedule. And we won't consider any installers that incentivizes 100% payment upfront. And so what we mean by a payment schedule, that's something like 40% down, as a down payment, and then upon completion, another 40%, perhaps once hooked up to GVA, the customer pays the remaining 10%. In addition, to help expedite the process with GVA, we're requiring the installers to stick to one of the two lines. And again, Richard will speak to those, that are the pre-approved options that GVA recommends and has on their website and readily available. If there is another option preferred by an installer, that'll slow down the process because it has to go through engineering. In addition, we're continuing to work with a group of solarizers from 2020 who are experiencing ongoing issues with ABS, and we had a recent meeting with them. And if anybody, I won't go into the details here to belabor that, but if you're interested in knowing more of what we're doing and why and how we're continuing to support them, I recommend you go to our Facebook page where we have more details. And on top of that, we really want more Solarize solar installers to participate. And so we're reaching out to trying to throw the net wider to bring in more folks. One of the other key things that we've pulled from, if you can go, yeah, thank you for that. If you can go to the next slide, please. That one of the other key things we learned is that communication is critical, and that's communication on all fronts. And we again went into following certain steps and things in line, but the pandemic really changed things a lot for us, where we then had to go virtual. We couldn't have in-person meetings anymore. But it was on all levels that we really need to look at communication between all the different entities involved, the core team, the community organizers, the committees, GVEA, the installer, as well as the homeowner and solarizers. And so some of the things that we're doing moving forward to help to alleviate some of the issues that arose last year is to really make sure that we have clear and regular communication between all these different entities. And we're clarifying our roles and responsibilities, and for those who participate, making sure that they understand what they are, and as well as the communication channels for everyone who's involved. You want to clearly articulate all the different steps and the timelines involved in this process, and include GVEA more so than we did last year. We did meet with GVEA, and every time we had questions and phone calls or emails with GVEA, they've been tremendous. And so we're really happy to have Richard Pacenti presenting here tonight to help let you all who may be interested in following through this know what GVA's process is, and to keep GVA and all of us on the same page and in the loop. And if we can go on to the next slide. And I think that this is, Jamie takes this one.
Yep, and I would like to introduce Julie Benson. She is a ester solarizer who participated in 2020.
Hi, thanks so much, Jamie, and thanks to the committee for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Julie Benson. I was part of the 2020 campaign in Esther, and we installed a 24-panel ground mount. It was installed by ABS Alaskan. I joined the campaign because I always wanted to do solar, but I just wasn't smart enough. I didn't know enough. At least I didn't feel like I did. And so the opportunity to be part of a campaign with really amazing people that know so much more about this than I do was. I just thought it was an incredible opportunity and was super excited to be part of the campaign in 2020. As you heard Lisa talk about, and she did a really great job describing it, there were some really unexpected challenges related to our installation. Um, what matters to me is that as snow was falling, our panels were turned on and we had solar power, and that was just so exciting. So while there were some challenges, some unexpected challenges related to our contract. We were so excited to be part of this community. And I can't tell you what a comfort it is. I really appreciate your words, Lisa, to know that going forward, as we continue to navigate some of those challenges, that we're part of this wonderful, supportive community that includes Richard from GVEA and the Solarize team. So I'm grateful to the volunteers. I am so thrilled, even with everything that happened. We have a solar array at our house, and then two of my neighbors got solar. And I just think it's such an incredible opportunity to be part of this campaign. So thanks to the volunteers. Thanks to you all for being here tonight, for learning about this exciting campaign. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation and really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Julie. All right, I think it's over to Alyssa.
Yes, and thank you so much, Julie, for joining and being a part of the Solarize family. Even, through, and we really are through thick and thin, and even through the thick parts. We have just been constantly reminded why this is something that Fairbanksons want to do. We had 4 installers already approach the core team asking for the RFP before we even released it. From I think, the beginning of this year to now, we've had several people come, to us and say, hey, we're ready to solarize. We're ready to do this. What does it take? What does it involve? And so, I see one person from our emails that, have said that they wanted to solarize here, which brings me to the next point. Who's next? Like we'll say again and again and over in this presentation, we really don't exist without you all. We are not the ones that solarize communities, it's you. And we also know that this is a really tough time, and I want to name that we are all still struggling within a pandemic. We're all still trying to figure out how to eat, how to pay our bills, how to stay sane. And so I am just so grateful for all of the people who have stepped up. And of course, paying homage to our 2 solarizing communities that had to pause during the pandemic to really answer that question of, is this an investment that they can make? Now is the question of, is this an investment we can make now with a year under our belt, now as things are becoming a little bit stable-ish, I suppose, still in the midst of a pandemic. Is it possible for Solarize College Road to happen this year? I'm looking through the participants, and I recognize a couple of people that live on Jack Street, that live in Aurora. I know you, I see you. Okay, what about all these people last year about West Fairbanks? Where are you at? Who's gonna take that charge? We were getting a lot of interest of people who are part of churches and congregations that have the idea of, what about we solarize our congregation? Like, not just our church building, but like the congregation. And you know what? I'm also going to call out, so in the borough's economic recovery plan, it mentions to support Solarize Fairbanks. And so if there's anybody here that's part of this kickoff that is on the borough assembly, knows folks on the borough assembly, knows the mayor, tell them to hit us up. It's like, hey, if we could be out there solarizing borough buildings, public spaces, like, let's get it. Who is next? Let's go to the next one here, because, you know, at the end of the day, we all put the U in community led solar initiatives, right? This work is not possible. And let me just make this abundantly clear. This work is not possible without the direction, the contributions, the efforts, and the vision that you all have, that this community has, in order to make this possible. And so if you are thinking of solarizing your community and it seems a little bit daunting because organizing is a full-time job, that's exactly what we're here for. We're here to support you. So if you have that vision, come to us and let us help manifest that vision into existence. So I want to pass the mic on to, you know, encourage you and to convince you even further. Jamie, who is our next solarizer we've got lined up?
We have Jana Pierce, a friend and colleague who went ahead and did Solarize through Solarize Steel Creek this past year. Go ahead, Jana.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Jamie just asked me to speak about why we decided to do Solarize and how Solarize helped us with going forward. For me, I have to say that the cost savings was a big part of the decision to go forward. The price break that we got through working with the volume discounts and through RES, and then knowing that that was on top of the federal tax break, and it made it easier for us to decide to go forward with something that we had wanted to do, but we weren't really sure if it made economic sense, if it was the best use of our money, because we weren't sure how long we were going to stay in the house. So just that marginal discount cost savings made us do what we kind of wanted to do in our hearts anyway, but weren't sure whether it was a wise thing to do. The other thing that was kind of my reason for getting involved, other than wanting to see the project successful for the community itself, but why we got involved ourselves. And then I was also, it was really helpful just to have access to people to answer your questions and to really kind of demystify it for us. The spreadsheet tool that Ben at ASEP shared, I really like that because I'm a data nerd, so I like playing with the numbers to help size our system, but you could totally do it without and just with recommendations. And then RES was also really good to work with. They were very responsive for quotes, and their installers were great, and their customer service has been good. More communication would be great, better time, more sense of timelines. There were definitely some uncertainties. I think some of those were really just because of the pandemic, and we were all trying to figure out what was happening. But we've been very happy with them. And then the other thing was just having confidence in the selection of the vendor. We had a lot of neighbors that participated in the committee that interviewed installers and then reviewed their quotes and packages. And it was just really nice knowing that process had happened and that people that have a lot more background than I do in solar panels and renewable energy were on that committee and were asking good questions and making good decisions on our behalf. So that also gave us more confidence that we were getting a good deal. So I think it was all of those things combined. And then I did participate on our outreach committee. It was really hard to figure out how to reach out to our neighbors in a neighborhood that doesn't really have any community center or any focal point really, especially during the pandemic. But we made some videos that we shared on Facebook, and we ended up recruiting 11 homes, and that was enough for us to get the volume discount that we wanted. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jana. So appreciate you sharing your experience. And so then next up is going to be we'll call it the technology section, and Ben is going to start us off, and then Bruno will end it up, I think.
Great. I guess you can, next slide, please. So I'm going to quickly go over sort of the basics of a solar system, some of the particulars of solar in Fairbanks, some of the economics of solar and things to consider when making that decision for yourself, and then in with that, a note about system sizing. I see there's a trivia note here. I don't know if we want to do that now, Alyssa, or should I guess I'll go through the solar basics first. So the solar panels, which everyone's familiar with, also called modules, and these are all things that sort of add up to the cost of the system. They get mounted on some sort of racking, so some sort of strut or channel or some system to anchor them to the roof or to the ground. They're connected with copper wiring and cabling to the inverter. So the output of the panels themselves is direct current, DC current, at a lower voltage, generally about 40 volts per panel. And the inverter, whether it's a micro inverter that's a single micro inverter for each panel, or a string inverter, which is one inverter for the whole array, those inverters convert that DC into alternating current at 120 volts or 240 volts and 60 hertz to go onto the grid and power your home, power things in your home. There will also be an electrical disconnect to isolate your system from the grid if it needs to be worked on or for any other reason. And then Golden Valley will come and install a meter specific to your solar system. So the snap meter will monitor just the power coming out of your solar. And then your installer may provide a monitoring system that allows you to use your phone or your web browser to see the performance of your solar system in real time. Did you want to do the trivia question?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Didn't want to get too technical, but
I do not know the answer.
Guess.
Okay, for folks joining us on the phone, of last year's Solarize Fairbanks solar PV installations, what percent do you think were roof mounted? You think it's between like none of them were to 25%, maybe a little bit higher, 26 to 50, 50 to 75, or 75 to 100? We're getting some responses in here. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right, 4 more people. Who's those 4? I'm going to call in 3, 2, 1. All right, what's the answer?
You're going to have to tell me, Alyssa. It's in the notes.
Good point. Okay, it looks like the answer was 49% are roof mounted. So if you chose C, you're kind of wrong, but you're kind of close. If you chose B, you're right. Was another one? All right, let's keep it rolling.
All right, next slide, please. So as everyone knows, there's not a lot of sunlight in Fairbanks in the wintertime. And so on the left is a plot of the amount of energy per kilowatt of capacity. So your solar system is going to have a nameplate capacity of a certain number of kilowatts, which is the maximum power that the panels are rated to output under full sunlight. And so as you can see, there's a pretty steep curve in the early spring, but the peak actually tends to be in April and into May. And this is based on solar models, and it's weather dependent and it varies year to year. But typically those sunny late spring days when there's a lot of snow on the ground to reflect sunlight is when the best output is going to be. And I should note that all of the numbers I'm presenting are for a prototypical system with no shading, tilted at 45 or 50 degrees, due south, and that you'll work with your installer to get a site-specific design and a site-specific estimate of the performance of your system. And this also assumes that there's no snow on your panels. So as shown on the right, if you install panels in the shade, they're not going to produce what they're rated to produce. And same if they're covered in snow all spring. But the installers will be able to tell you sort of how they shed snow at different tilts and under different conditions and all of that. But another aspect with our low sunlight is to capture that springtime sun. You got to make sure that you're not getting shadowed by trees that may even be far away from your installation, but because of the low angle, you get the shadow still. Next slide, please. So this is a little dated. I haven't updated these numbers in a couple years, but another question is like, well, if there's no production in the wintertime, is solar even worth it in Fairbanks? And on the left is a plot of how much energy a 1 kilowatt solar system is expected to produce in 8 or 9 different cities in the US. And as expected, Fairbanks is the bottom of the list on an annual basis. However, that's really only half of the equation on how much economic benefit there is to having the solar. And so in the middle is a plot of the average cost of electricity in those same cities. And Fairbanks is near the top of the list. And so when you multiply the amount of solar times the cost of electricity, you get sort of the dollars per year that you might save from a kilowatt of solar. And Fairbanks is in the top half of this sampling of cities. And so it's, in theory, a kilowatt of solar panels in Fairbanks is more valuable than a kilowatt in Phoenix, based on these numbers, or Miami for that matter. Next slide, please. So solar in Fairbanks, so as you know, we're about 65 degrees latitude. The Earth has about a 23-degree tilt. In the lower 48, the typical installation is to tilt your panels to your latitude. And that way, half the year your sun is higher than your panel, where your panels are aimed, and half the year the sun is lower. And you sort of average it out. However, here there's really not any benefit to that lower half in the wintertime. So typical ideal solar, so I'll finish my thought on the left. So at the equinoxes in the spring and fall, the sun is 25 degrees above the horizon, and it gets up to 48 degrees above at the summer solstice and down to 2 degrees at the winter solstice, all at solar noon. And so on the right is a plot. Left and right is angles from north. So the middle of the plot is looking due south. And then the vertical axis is the tilt of the panels from the horizontal. So basically where the panel is pointed at. And a student intern from ASAP, while they were working at the borough, actually did this analysis using PV watts data. And the contours here are what percentage of the maximum energy you would expect on an annual basis. So if you aim at the dead center of this plot, you're going to get 100% of the potential solar energy. And as you work your way out, as you tilt up or down or aim a little southeast or southwest, you start to work out to lower, less efficient positioning of your panels. But the important thing to take away is that you're within 5%, that 95% contour, anything between like a 30 degree and a 60 degree tilt, and anything between 30 degrees southeast and 30 degrees southwest of south is going to get you really close to 100% of the potential, assuming they're cleared of snow. Next slide, please. So the other part of economics, the rates. So I'll just quickly go over the current Golden Valley residential rate. So everyone pays a $22.50 per month customer charge. You're not going to save any money on that by having solar in a grid connected system. And then your rate per kilowatt hour is comprised of the utility charge, which covers, and I put the box around the wrong one, sorry. Covers all of Golden Valley's operational costs, infrastructure, maintenance, all of that. That's currently about 12 cents per kilowatt hour. And then there's a fuel and purchase power charge of 8 cents per kilowatt hour, which is reflective of the actual cost of the fuel being consumed at Golden Valley's power plants and the cost of buying power over the intertie from Bradley Lake or from the natural gas plants in Anchorage area. And then there's a very small regulatory charge which funds the REC. So you'll hear the term net metering, and what that means is what it currently means under the current rules is on a monthly basis, you pay the full 20 cents for every kilowatt hour of energy you use from Golden Valley. You pay the utility charge, the fuel charge, and the regulatory charge, and that adds up to about 20 cents per kilowatt hour currently. And so any energy that comes from your solar power panels instead of from Golden Valley saves you that much on your bill. And that's added up on a monthly basis. So some hours you might overproduce, some hours you might underproduce, but it's the net total over the course of the month. And so that's part of net metering. And the other part is if at the end of the month your solar panels actually produce more energy than you've used in your home or business, Golden Valley will credit you the avoided fuel cost. And so the box around the 12 cent per kilowatt hour should be a row lower around the 8 cent per kilowatt hour. So you'll be credited currently 8 cents per kilowatt hour for your contribution to the grid, if you will, the fuel and purchase power that you save the utility. Next slide, please. So sizing your system, the best economics are going to be when your system is just big enough to offset what you're using. So that blue line through the middle is actually my house's electricity consumption for 1 year. And the lower line is the amount of energy that would come from a solar system that was sized just so that I never overproduced in a given month. And so you can see in April, my solar production matches my consumption. And then again in July, it's very close as well. And so in this case, I'm always reaping that 20 cent per kilowatt hour benefit of the energy from my solar panels. The higher line is if, say, I built a bigger solar system, from March until September, every month I would actually be producing an excess amount of energy, and I'd be getting that 8 cent per kilowatt hour credit. But then in those winter months where I'm underproducing, I would be paying the full rate for the energy that I used from Golden Valley. And so the takeaway here is that you want to pick a system to achieve your goals. If you're looking for the shortest possible economic payback, the best return on investment, you're going to want to size it like that lower curve where it just meets your needs a couple months a year and otherwise is lower. However, if you're focused on, offsetting the most amount of power of your energy consumption from the grid that you can on an annual basis, then you might oversize your system. And as Bruno's going to talk about, you can move that blue curve up or you can move that blue curve down by pursuing energy efficiency first. Next slide, please. So it was mentioned the tax credit last year was slated to be the last year of the 26% subsidy, which means you get a tax credit of 26% of the total cost of your solar installation cost. That's been extended through this year and through next year. So the subsidies there are staying at last year's level for 2 more years. Next slide, please. And you'll hear a term called simple payback. And so that's just taking the total out-of-pocket cost and dividing it by how much you're going to save each year. And so last year, I think all of the solar systems came in under $3 per watt, which is just the total cost of the system divided by normalized by the size of the system. So as an example, a 4 kilowatt system would cost $12,000 up front. And then you get 26% of that back on your taxes, so $3,100 back on your taxes. In Fairbanks, a kilowatt size system produces about 1,000 kilowatt hours per year in a typical install. So a 4 kilowatt system produces 4,000 kilowatt hours of energy. Assuming none of that is avoided fuel costs, that's worth about $880 a year. So you take the upfront cost minus the tax savings. Solar systems are pretty much zero maintenance. There should be no maintenance costs in the first 7 to 10 years. And so where we are now is about a 10-year payback. And the thing that no one really knows is what are electrical rates going to do in the future. If electrical rates go up in the future, your payback gets shorter. If electrical rates go down, your payback goes a little longer, but hey, your electrical rates went down. So nothing to complain about. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip the next 2 slides. I think Bruno's going to speak to efficiency. And I just have one slide with some resources. If you really want to geek out on solar, the Cooperative Extension has published a solar design manual for Alaska. There's a lot of great content in there. And you can also poke around NREL's PV Watts modeling tool if you're so inclined. But I do want to reiterate that you'll work with your installer to get a site-specific design and a site-specific estimate of performance. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. I'm actually impressed that the numbers we used, although we didn't talk, we used got the same number. So the math adds up. So that's means we're off to a good start. I'm happy to be here today to talk about the energy efficiency aspect here. And this is like Jamie said, a new part of this program we're trying to integrate into Solarize. You know, and the thing about energy efficiency is it's just isn't sexy like solar is. You know, solar really makes a statement. It advertises your values to your neighbors. But when it comes to energy efficiency, you can have two houses that are identical, and one can use twice as much energy as the other, and there's no obvious visible statement here. And so the thing about this is that it's been said that the cheapest energy is the energy we don't have to buy, we don't have to use. And so there are a couple of resources that actually there are two ways you can look at this when it comes to energy efficiency. One is the energy efficiency of electrical consumption, and some folks call that energy conservation. And then there's the other part of energy efficiency, which is looking at how much energy am I using. They typically tend to think in terms of like how much energy is my house using and how much do I save by implementing certain measures. GVA has this wonderful Home Sense program offered to all the members. You have a trained energy efficiency specialist that comes out to your house and performs an energy use assessment. And we'll talk to you about ways you can reduce the electrical usage, lower that blue curve that Ben just talked to you about. And during this, I think it's $20. You get some educational materials. You get some LEDs to replace some lesser efficient bulbs. Some cases you get a vehicle plug-in timer. But you know, you're looking at things that are like on this slide here. So considering the amount of energy your water heater is using, and maybe you need to put a blanket on it, or perhaps a programmable thermostat. You know, there are still a lot of houses out there that just have manual dial type thermostats. There are new ones out here that are smarter than we are, and the way they work, and it's just worth knowing this because they get a sense of saying, okay, when it's 30 degrees outside, when I have the boiler on, and they get to know your house individually. It looks at my house versus someone else's house. When the thermostat says this, I'm gonna call for heat, and I'm gonna see my boiler's gonna run for 3 hours to get my house up by 5 degrees when it's 30 degrees outside. But when it's like 30 below, it knows if I need to get 5 degrees, that boiler needs to run a lot longer. And so these smart ones actually can reach out, connect to the internet, and say, "Oh my gosh, a cold front's coming tomorrow," and it'll actually front end load your house, and there's a higher comfort actually, and there's more efficiency that comes from just changing those thermostats. And I'm going to show you in just a minute. Let's talk about professional home energy audits. What happens when you hire a professional auditor? They come and help pinpoint where your house is losing energy and what you can do to save money. And they also assess the health and safety issues that might exist in your house. And it's not always that evident what that could be. Typically, an energy auditor will come out and they'll put this mechanism in your front door. It's called a blower door test. And it's like kind of blowing into say it's like you're blowing into a cereal box, right? And there's some leakage somewhere, and you can get a rating of how leaky or how tight is your house. And then what'll come of that is, well, there may be ways you can tighten up your house. They may do what are called thermographic inspections. They'll take these fancy infrared cameras and they'll go through, and you've seen them, right, where they're kind of multicolored pictures. You can see the cold spots in your house. Very important. It's useful not only for energy efficiency, but that's also the spot where you might get condensation, ergo mold growth, for instance. They'll come out and look at your boiler, look at its energy efficiency, its performance. They'll look at your ventilation. Are you adequately ventilated, over ventilated? Are you spitting too much heat outside? Do you have heat recovery? That's a big piece of it. They'll look at your insulation. They'll look at your lighting, your appliances, the electronics. They'll look at the efficiency of your windows. There are a lot of houses, believe it or not, in Fairbanks that have single pane windows. And so for about $450 or so, you can get an energy audit. It depends on the size of the house. And so this is where the Solarize Plus will come in. The idea is to get bulk audits at a lower cost, but that auditor will come in and make a list of recommendations. And they generally rank them based on the most efficient measures, and they're also ranked against cost. So you can be really informed. It's not just like, here's your list, good luck. You typically get some consultation to go with it, and actual piece of paper that gives you descriptions. And you often see between 15 and 30% lower energy bills. It can be higher than that for sure. And it can result, the other thing that's not apparent with this, the money part, is the health part. And so these energy audits can also result in identifying like low levels of carbon monoxide that can result in low level health issues, but it's not a high enough CO level that your monitor, your CO monitor, carbon monoxide monitor will actually beep at you. This is actually more common than you think. Also, it can mitigate mold growth. The energy efficiency measures can mitigate mold growth. So it's not just about money, it's about your health. Let's go to the next slide, please. Then, and this is where I was impressed with our numbers matching up, Ben. But this is the thing, right? Let's look at energy efficiency with solar PV. If you had 13 grand in this case, you buy a 4 kilowatt array, and you had 26% tax credit. This yields about $9,600, and it offsets about $886 a year. So we did a project, Cold Climate Housing Research Center did a project a couple years ago where it's called the Fairbanks Nonprofit Retrofit Program, where we went out to these nonprofits, did energy audits, and they basically identified, energy savings. And here's a great example. This is St. Matthew's Church downtown, and they went through, and the lowest hanging fruit here were installing setback thermostats that are talking, not even the whole smart, like the ones that are connected to the grid, just setback thermostats, $230, and then they replaced some exterior lights with LEDs. That's it. So they got about $1,800 worth of cost in this, and they saved $1,300 a year in 2016. So, it's a matter of what's the best bang for your buck. And so this is why we're excited about the energy efficiency piece, because it's a great first step. And then you can say, all right, now what do I have? Now how can I invest into PV? So I'm going to pass it off to the next person. Thanks for your time.
And thank you, Bruno. That would be me. We see your questions coming in. Keep them coming, keep them coming. We're going to get now into the Solarize model. I'm sure you all have technical questions of like, okay, well, what if my panels are on the north side facing, or, what if ground mounted? Pause for a second, because we're going to get into exactly how this all ropes in together. We're going to spend a little bit of time here. So, and we'll also have some trivia. So you need to pay attention. I'm looking at y'all. Okay. Solarized model. We have 5 components that make this work possible. Okay. None in any sort of particular order. We have the area organizer at the top, the shining star, the one that comes forward and says, you know what? I am going to lead the charge, and I am going to solarize my neighborhood, congregation, business, property, whatever I own. I am going to do it. And you know what? I'm going to do it together with my friends, neighbors, coworkers, whatever makes sense, right? They are the ones responsible for the formation, the recruitment, and the flow of the Solarize campaign and the community. Then from there, we have the committees. These are the gears. Think of the gears of the campaign that make it, crunk forward and, push on, right? We have 3 different committees that we recommend folks that are looking to solarize their neighborhoods, congregations use. We have the steering committee. Imagine them as the right hand to the area organizer. They're the ones that kind of look at the oversight, where they want this campaign to go, who they want it to involve, they help the area organizer develop what those boundaries look like. And they also work with us here at the core team to make sure that everything's going smoothly. We have then the selection committee. These are the eyes and the negotiators of the campaign. They're the ones that are looking at this RFP. They're creating that selection matrix that when, you know, you're part of a selection committee, you'll know what that is. If you ain't part of the selection committee, don't worry about it. But these are the people that like to get in the nitty gritty, that they want to know exactly what these installers are saying that they can do, what their inventory is, how much staff they have. It's like, oh yeah, we could do it for this much. And it's like, yeah, but let me see them references. These are the people that you want on your campaign to make sure that they're going to be picking the best installer to carry out this campaign. And they're the ones that are going to be selecting the preferred installer. No, again, the wonderful thing about the solarized model is that you as an individual solarizer, and we will go into this again and we'll mention this again, you can make the final decision. Let's say that, you know, the selection committee selects installer B and you happen to be like good family friends with installer A, you can do Solarize, you can go with installer A. That's totally fine. You know, there may be questions of, you know, the group discount and whether that's going to apply to you. But again, this is your system. It's your roof or property or ground or whatever. You're the one that makes the shot. The selection committee is just going to take all that inertia of going through the RFP and going through the bids out of your hands. And so this is really, you know, something that you really want to engage in and trust. Then we have the third outreach committee. These are the megaphones of the campaign. These are the ones that are creating the videos, that are helping me as part of the outreach part of the core team develop materials. If you guys want flyers, if you want Facebook posts, you want something on our website, these are the folks that like to, you know, connect with other people in the community, get, you know, more people joined in the campaign to raise that group discount. These are the people that like to get on social media and talk about their experiences and what they're trying to do and who they're trying to recruit to maybe doing some interviews or some op-eds to the News Murder. So these are the people that are really pushing this campaign forward. Of course, then you have the next cog of the Solarized model, the Solarized core team. And we are essentially the support. We are here to, you know, help with general communications, timelines, a little bit of tech support here and there to make sure that everything's running smoothly. We're just kind of like as your foundation so you all can carry the campaign in the ways that you see fit. And of course, we have the preferred installer. Once that selection committee selects who they think is going to be the best one for the committee, the installer is responsible for the data collection, the installations, and of course, the completion of your solar systems for you and the solarizing community. And of course, last but not least, and the shining star of the solarized model is y'all, the solarizers. You folks are the ones that make this exist in the first place. And your responsibility is to engage with us because we literally can't do anything without you all. You are the ones that sign the contract. So again, regardless of what, you know, the selection committee does, if, hey, everyone's getting batteries and you don't want to get a battery, baby, don't get a battery. You ain't got to get a battery. If you want to get a ground mat, go ahead and get you a ground mat. If you want to go and do a solar farm and that installer is going to be like, I'm going to work with you, baby, go ahead and do that. This is your system. You get to make that choice, reassessment, you know, customize it the way that you want. But the whole point is that, again, this is your shot here. This is your contract, your shot, your connection. And you're the one that's, you know, signing that contract. So we are really just here as a support for you all in the ways that you see the campaign fit and the ways that you see your solar, you know, your solar system to be fit, right? If you have questions, Q&A function. We are now going to go into trivia. I hope you were paying attention. We have 3 questions for you. What is the steering committee's responsibility? Is it campaign oversight, purchasing solar panels, or cattle wrangling? Very important in the interior. Number 2, what's the selection committee's responsibility? Is it selecting the installer, choosing the Solarize logo? Because we need to talk about that. Or is it writing the RFP and selecting an installer? Or selecting houses and businesses to solarize? And then of course the outreach committee, deciding on the discount. Is it communication recruitment or is it picking the installer? Y'all didn't know that y'all were in Solarize Fairbanks class, did you? This is a timed quiz, of course. Get those responses in, get them in. I'm not going to tell you the answer either. All right, we're getting them rolling in. I know you know the answer. Don't be shy. It's okay. No one's going to fail Solarize Fairbanks if you get it wrong. It's okay because we're here to help. All right, we're almost there. We're almost there, almost there. We got 6 people. Come on. 86%. Come on, let's go. Who's stuck? Who needs help? Who needs to look at the slide again? Because I'm gonna call it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're closing it. All right, if you chose A for number 1, you are correct. Who chose cattle wrangling? I'm gonna find you. We gonna talk. You know it's not that. You know that it's campaign oversight. All right. And for number 2, if you chose number C, you got that right. Selection committee is RFP and selecting the installer. And for number 3, if you chose communication and recruitment, I love you. And we're going to be working together. Thank you all for entertaining me. And again, another Solarize Fairbanks trivia. Let's go to the next slide here. This is just a plug for you all here to keep engaged with us on Facebook, our emails, and of course, visit our website. We, with again, a year under our belt, are updating pretty much all of our materials from our one-pagers that we were sending out to how we're going to be working with ABS contractors to even our crisis response plan throughout this pandemic. And if you didn't know we had a crisis response plan, now you do. And you can check it out on our Facebook and website. So please go to our Facebook and website. All right. Let's head to the next slide. And I am so happy to introduce Richard. He has been wonderful with the rest of the GVA team and really connecting with us and figuring out how we as Solarize Fairbanks and GVA can work together to make this a much more streamlined process for you as the member owners and Solarizers. Rich, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate it. And thank you to the rest of the Solarize team. You've been very easy to work with. So yeah, thanks again. So basically, GVA's role, really, our role is to facilitate this process. So the member realizes connection as quickly as possible. So that's our end goal. Now, of course, we want to do that safely. We want to do that while still keeping the lights on, and we want to do that fiscally responsibly too. So spending your money wisely, and so that's really the goal of Golden Valley. We really have an easy job. The installers and the contractors and the participants really have the work cut out for them. But of course, that's not to say we don't work hard to make that job easy. We sure do. But basically what we do and what I would like to go over today is just basically the application, or excuse me, the flow for the SNAP program. It starts with an application. But if we go on to the next slide, Alyssa. So this is the basic, the process going from start to finish, from the application to the connection. It's very simple in the sense that the solarizer really is just applying with the contractor that is taking over their neighborhood or having doing the stuff in their neighborhood. And typically it goes, the contractor will go from there and work with Golden Valley. And so really just want to go over the application process. And this is going to be on our external website, gva.com. We're going to have all these documents. Not all of them are uploaded yet. We've been working since 2020 Solarize campaign and the success that was seen. we've decided to make this as transparent as possible to everybody involved. So to the membership, to the installers, to solarizers, and so on. Our process is very robust. We haven't really changed the process per se. We've now just put it out to the public so it's more understandable. So basically the first step, of course, is to apply for the SNAP Plus program, which is the net metering program, and that'll be through the Solarize campaign. Basically, you do that. The application will go to the new construction department at Golden Valley, and of course, you agreed to the terms of the net metering, which will be part of the application packet. From there, it goes to a design stage where basically the member, and when I say member, that can be the contractor that's doing it. Basically, they will provide engineered designs and drawings and so on, and any needed documentation for the engineering process. Of course, those contractors will ensure that the designs are compliant with NEC, which is National Electric Code, and Golden Valley standards, of which sometimes are a little more robust than National Electric Code. And that's for reliability and safety concerns. So once it's gone to the design, from the design stage to Golden Valley, we actually review it. Our engineers will review it, and the contractor will actually submit a design. Actually, Alyssa, can you go on to is that next slide? I might have to jump back. No, that's a different one. So that's no big deal. Go back to the other one. Great, thank you. So basically, an engineer will review the design pretty simply, and once any edits are made, any additions, that design is approved, and of course that might go through several iterations, but that is the review process. At that point, the member has the contractor install the system. So whether it's a ground-mounted system or a house-mounted system, the installer will install that on the member's property. And at this point, the system isn't connected to Golden Valley. We still have to go through the inspection process, but it is getting close to that point. Once the installation is complete and engineering has been completed, we will go to an inspection stage where our construction field reps, we have two that are doing this, Anthony Rogers and Christoph Falk, who I believe might be joining the meeting today. You will be working with them to do the inspection, and then once the inspection's done, if it passes inspection, at that point you go to connection. So that's the I guess basic simple flow of the process. There are details within those bubbles that we do internally, but again, we try to make this as fast as possible for you to get these systems online, and really that's kind of the long and the short of it. Now, Alyssa, if you could switch to the next diagram or next slide. These are actually examples of construction guides that will be online. These are only two of the construction guides. We actually have construction guides that show the meter on the house as well. I didn't include that slide in the presentation, but those are on our website. And basically what this is showing is how to install the meter and the SNAP service onto a meter pole. And so these will be available to you online, like I said, at gva.com. We actually have I don't know if the link was included here, Alyssa, on the slide, but it's no problem. If you go to gva.com and you go to member resources, there's a drop down, and then you go to SNAP net metering, and that would actually produce all of these documents for you. So that's kind of the long and the short of the process within Golden Valley. And we're looking forward to, this year there was we had many more participants than we anticipated. But we were able to keep timelines, and it was a relatively smooth process. Besides some unpredictable hiccups along the way. But in any case, we're looking forward to this next season and this next year. So I hope that there's still good participation, and I wish everyone good luck.
Thank you, Richard. And that was a really great, this is part of what we're trying to do, is make sure that everyone who is looking at a solar PV system understands the process. Even if the installer is the one walking you through that, everyone needs to have a clear idea of what needs to happen. So if you could go to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to take a few minutes to go through some of the financing that we know of. This is very much a living list. All right, next slide, please. So of course, one is the solarized discount. And that's the volume discount that is negotiated with the installer, and that each member of that solarizing area would expect. Oftentimes there are different levels of discounts, and I will say that no one should go into a solarized campaign expecting the discount. One should be comfortable signing that contract with the base solarized price, and then everyone hopefully works to make sure that deeper discounts can be received. Another is that federal tax credit that Ben mentioned in terms of being 26%. And that is a really fantastic savings that I know is a major motivator for many people. It certainly was for myself in deciding to go with solar. This next one, the FNSB tax credit, I just wanted to put this up here. It's new. It probably won't apply to much or many who are going through the Solarize campaign this year, but it's an interesting thing to keep tabs on in terms of what the borough is doing in terms of looking at tax credits or exemptions on energy efficient buildings and potentially other additions like solar in the future. Another key way to look at cost reductions, we've said it, I'll say it again, is that energy efficiency. It's essentially sizing your PV system according to your needs. And if you can, reducing your energy needs so that your overall cost is lower because you don't need as large of a system potentially. And another, which actually is not a discount or a cost reduction, it's a way to add value to your home or business. And that's the Green Addendum, which is pretty new to Alaska. The Alaska Housing Finance Corporation has been working on educating appraisers and others on this process. But the idea here is that with this Green Addendum, with an appraisal that is looking not simply at comps, but actually looking at the value of the home according to either energy efficiency or renewable energy additions, that value can be realized when selling that home or business building. Next slide. And then there are some loans. And the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is one of the top lenders in terms of energy or energy efficiency focused loans. Another critical loan tool that many homeowners have looked at is the home equity line of credit. There's also, and I think this is actually from Spirit of Alaska, which has had a solar specific loan program. And I believe that's really been focused around that Title I home improvement loan. And then of course there are consumer loans. So there are a range of loans and we are definitely trying to add to this list. And I know that others in Juneau and Anchorage and across the state are looking at other ways to make sure that everyone has access to low interest loans to do this type of work. Next slide.
We do actually have trivia if we want to do that really quick.
Okay, sure. So the question is, of last year's Solarize Fairbanks participants, what do you think the percent of are those who used a loan for their solar installation? All right, we'll do a short countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, go ahead and hit your response. Cool. So most people thought that between 26 to 50% were using loans. And hold on, I have to pull up the answer. It looks like it was only 15%. And so that most people actually ended up paying with cash. And, you know, there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but certainly the need for additional loan programs is something that speaks to us all. All right, next slide. And then the last, and this is for businesses, and it's actually a grant, and it's the USDA Rural Energy for America program. And there is a REAP grant that is available for any business operating in rural Alaska, which is anywhere except for the municipality of Anchorage. And it will cover 25% of an energy efficiency upgrade or a renewable energy system. And this is for for-profits. And I will say that Solarize Kenai USDA saw a pretty big bump in use of this grant this last year from Solarize Kenai. And Solarize PV systems are certainly one that have a pretty good payback. And so they score quite highly in this grant program. And since 2018, this is Alaska's office of the USDA Rural Development Office for USDA awarded close to $1.5 million in grants to small Alaskan businesses that were looking to do energy efficiency retrofits or install renewable energy. So it's a really incredible resource for anyone who has a business. All right, next slide. And so this is again kind of looking at what's on the horizon. You know, I think GVA on-bill financing is probably in Fairbanks the one that is closest, in that the Golden Valley Electric is very seriously considering this. The member advisory committee has reviewed some options and made recommendations to the board. So that's exciting. No timeline on that, but that on-bill financing is essentially where instead of going to a private lender, one would go ahead and take out a loan and pay back on their bill, on their utility bill. Other options that are on the horizon, so not quite available yet here, would be power purchase agreements, community solar. And I know there's some folks who are interested in community solar on the call here. Green Bank, which there is some movement, but again, certainly not for this summer, but could be a really incredible opportunity for those low interest loans for energy efficiency or renewable energy upgrades. And the last is that commercial property assessed clean energy. That's a program that is being set up now. I believe the municipality of Anchorage is the only one that has gone forward on that. And it's similar in a sense to on-bill financing in that it looks at basically assessing or paying that bill through property tax. All right, next slide.
Is my time. All right, let's take a good breath. You all have made it to the last section of this presentation. Congratulations, I am proud of you. Just kidding. All right, so we're going to talk about exactly how all of this information is going to manifest into an actual Solarize campaign. And I have great news for you. We've done it before. It works. So don't fret. It's all okay. I see your question, April. So come to the screen because we're going to talk. Everybody else go away. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. I saw someone leave. Come back. Okay, we're going to spend some time on this slide. So how does this actually all work? Well, it starts with that area organizer that identifies themselves as really having the capacity and the drive and the time to put forth this campaign. They identify the folks that are interested. You know, you start talking to your neighbors. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. You want to do it with me? You thinking about doing solar? Hey, we see, you know, a distillery over there. You think that they would get some solar? Start talking to people about this idea. Start gauging your community, whether that's your neighborhood. Maybe you're downtown in the Nerlin building, and there could be solar on that roof. They got a big roof. My office used to be back there. That could be a whole solar thing. So start gauging. Right. And the next thing you're going to do, April, is you're going to figure out exactly what this campaign is. Do we want to do, solarize downtown Fairbanks? Should we stop at Lacey Street, or we want to go all the way to South Cushman? Do we want to go all the way up to College Road, or we want to stop at College Road because College Road going to do their whole solarized thing, right? And of course, that is a conversation that you have with your community and hopefully your steering committee, from other folks that are like, you know what, I'm going to help you with this. And once you've identified some key folks, I suggest having 3 good people that are like, you know what, this is a really cool thing, I'm going to help you do this. That's when you reach out to core team, right? Reach out to us anyway. Say you want to do this. We can, we can help along with that process, but reach out to us, right? When you're like, I want to be the area organizer. We've got maybe a couple of folks that are thinking about doing the steering committee. That's when we host the community workshops, and there's many folks on here who have been to these community workshops as well, and that's where we come in and we do a similar presentation to this, but a little bit more structured about how the committee process goes forward, what different roles, responsibilities are going to be. That's when we're going to have materials for you all to share with the rest of your community folks, whoever is going to be in the solarizing project with you. And of course, that is going to be virtual, so even easier to join from your home in your pajamas and a blanket, whatever you need to do. From there, that is when you are going to identify and form your committees. People are going to hear how awesome and great this program is, and they're going to be like, I want to be on the outreach committee. And I'm going to be like, dope. All right, here's my email, here's my number. Let's get cracking on the Solarize campaign. From there, once you have a really strong selection committee, then what that selection committee is going to do is that they're going to get the RFP, right? And they're going to look at how that's structured and how they want to formalize that scoring matrix. And the scoring matrix is essentially a tool that is used to essentially score different installers' bids on everything from inventory to the material to the types of panels that they use. If they're local right here in Fairbanks, customer service is a really huge one. Pretty much all the different things from references and reviews. The selection committee is going to grade all of those installers, and from those conversations they are then going to pick the preferred installer. And then from that point, of course, the core team is going to know, and there's going to be communication out to that installer that they have been selected. Outreach committee is then going to step in, and it's like, okay, we're going to announce this to the world that, hey, we have selected our installer. And of course, throughout this, we're wanting to recruit folks into this campaign and program. But really, this is the key part here. Once you have that selected installer, you can really start driving home that, the group discount. The more people you get into this program, the higher that discount is going to be. If that's really the key part here. That's really a good motivator to get people in, that they can be taking an additional like 8%, 13%. It all depends on the installer and what they are willing to put forth to the table. But that is really the key thing. Again, the more people you get into this program with your campaign, the higher that discount is going to be. And then, of course, the juicy, exciting part, the contract and the installation. And of course, this is with the solarizers, the outreach committee, and pretty much everybody. So when your solarizers, so the folks that I've identified, hey, I want an assessment, I want to figure out how much it's going to cost to get solar and where to put it. Okay, I see the assessment, how much that's going to cost from the preferred installer. That looks good to me. This is projected, group discount, and usually installers will sort of break it down. If you get this many people, this is how much the discount is going to be, rope it down. And again, that's within the RFP and their bid that they put forth. From there, solarizers are the ones that are signing that contract. Everything's all good to go. It'll have an installation schedule, and your installer should be connecting with you specifically on when you're going to get your installation, all that good stuff like that, including your manual and any other information that you need along with the signing of that contract. You also, as a solarizer, are going to be like, hey, I just signed this awesome contract with this awesome installer and I'm getting solar in like July. You should join me and be cool and be solarizers with me too. And they're going to be like, word, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna get on this group discount. And hey, turns out I'm also a business, so hey, we're investing in community solar and reducing our footprint. Isn't that dope? Peer pressure, you know how it goes. So recruit, reach out, branch out. The outreach committee is there to support you as solarizers. We are here to support you as solarizers. And then once we're going through the campaign, we're going to set a deadline of when people can join to sign up, right? Every campaign needs a deadline, and that also prompts people to sign up. And we have to, cut off that deadline. We can't be going all the way in October and still signing people up because people won't get their solar. So once that deadline comes to sign up into the campaign, then the group discount is confirmed. We know how much people are getting back on their systems, and we can go forth with installations. Now, again, you are the ones that are getting the system, which means that you are the ones that are customizing what that looks like. If you want to have 5 panels instead of 4, do that. If you want a ground mount, go ahead and do that. If you got a lot of trees and you thought that you want to put it over here but you want to put it over there, go ahead and do that. If you don't want to go with the installer that the selection committee chose, that is okay too. Do whatever is best for your own home, the people that are going to be using the energy, what your goals are. We are here as a support to help you reach your energy and clean energy efficiency goals. So do make the best choices here. We're wanting to give you all the information so you can make that decision for yourself and you can sign a contract that you feel comfortable with. Does that make sense? If you've got questions, that was a lot. So if you've got questions, again, put them in the question and answer function, and we will get to those questions and, make sure that you understand exactly how all of this works. If we go to the next slide here, this is just a sample timeline, right? This is just to give you an idea of how this all sort of works. Okay, so you see in the first couple months, we're sort of trying to get our committees together, and doing all the things that we need to do to spread the word. We're identifying what our what our campaigns look like. We are sending out our RFP, and installers are looking at that and being like, okay, yeah, this is what I can do for that price and all that good stuff like that. Then we select our contractor, within those different campaigns, towards the 4th and 5th month. Of course, throughout this, you're going to be doing your outreach. We have a registration period where people are signing up because they're really, really excited. You're hosting workshops and webinars. Your assessments are also happening around this time. And towards the end of that, you're getting into the installations. People are signing their contracts. Group discounts are getting confirmed. You're getting installations and people getting panels on their roofs and their properties and all sorts of things. We're all excited and we're celebrating, and whoop, then we're done. I'm going to hand it to Jamie to give you a little bit more context as to what we're doing this year, to conceptualize it a little further.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. So in terms of what this timeline might actually look like in Fairbanks, if we could go to the next slide. So it's February, we're in February. And so the RFP has been released and expecting bids from installers in the next month. And then right now through March, maybe even April, we are going to be recruiting folks who are interested in organizing their areas. So if you have any interest in being in a solarizing area and gathering a couple of friends or neighbors who are interested in helping you, now or March or early April is definitely the time to reach out to us so that we can help get you set up as a solarizing area. And in March at the earliest, that's when some solarizing groups with their selection committees will be able to go ahead and select an installer. And that's a preferred installer. It does not mean that someone has to use that installer if they are in that particular area. If they want to see that volume discount, they are going to need to use that preferred installer under the Solarize campaign. But it's really about a question on price in terms of what drives that decision. Next, in April and May, that's when community workshops and solar assessments begin. And that's right once the preferred installer is selected. And of course, also in May, those solar assessments continue. And so that's really the first opportunity for solar installers to start going home to home, business to business, to gather the information they need to do that customized solar assessment and quote. June, that's our expectation of when installations begin. I think there may have been some earlier than that this year. This is sort of a stylized timeline. The construction season typically can run from May to October. So that's generally what we're expecting. Then September is the end of the customer sign up. And at that point, when the installer finalizes the volume discount, because they now know how many homes and businesses have participated in that specific Solarize community. And ideally, by October, everyone who has signed up to get solar is now a happy owner of a solar PV panel on their home. So that's all I have. And I think I hand it over to Lisa.
Yeah, this has been a lot of information thrown at all of you, and fortunately, this is being recorded and it's saved, and we're open to questions. So, if you didn't absorb all of it, then don't worry. And what does success look like? And we've only gone through 1 year, and we had challenges we didn't expect. And so, on a very simple level, success is. It's all written here, you're welcome to read it as well, but success is our community campaigns and that gather folks together that bring solar to their buildings, and that in the end, they're happy installers, they're happy home and business owners, and the process was a success, and the Solarize model played out, and we were able to help bring more solar with the help of this community to the greater Fairbanks and outlying areas. Hopefully we'll have, we won't have the pandemic, maybe we'll get quiet. We know how to function in it now though. So that isn't as big of a stumbling block as it was for moving forward a year ago when we were first faced with it. But as you can read here, I won't read it all to you, but the end result is that we've got communities working together with the Solarize team, with the installers, with GVEA to bring more solar to Fairbanks. And that really is the bottom line. And as we expand this to include bringing solar in a more equitable and accessible manner to more people, then success even grows. And at the bottom here, it says collaboration, community, and flexibility, and that really is at the heart of the Solarize campaign. And so I think I get to pass it now off to Alyssa.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. And we're gonna go to before, whatever that, yes, that word. Yes. So my question to all of you who are still with us, are you ready to Solarize? If you are interested, even if you just want a free assessment, just to budget out this year and figure out what this process is, go ahead and sign up here at this on our sign up sheet. If you, like I said, want an assessment, if you are like, I'm down for this, I'm ready to be an area organizer, I'm going to connect with the core team to figure out how I do that. If you are part of a congregation, a nonprofit, a business that's thinking about solarizing your business, your building, your property, go ahead and sign up here. We want to hear from you. We want to support you. We want to make your Solarize campaign or just your solar panels on your roof a reality. We can go to the next slide. That's pretty much all we have here. Thank you all so much for coming with us along this Solarize 2021 journey. Of course, you have any questions, concerns, wild ideas, more than welcome to send us an email here, visit our website, or you can easily just go on our Facebook page. You know, please keep engaged with us there because we'll have resources. This is again being recorded live on Facebook, so you can go back and you can read it, or not read it, watch it. And we'll have some resources and updates and all sorts of things for you there. We'll head into, with our last 10 minutes with each other, into questions and answers that haven't been answered already. So again, if you have any lingering questions, you know, some last minute thoughts that you want us to go over, put them in the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen.
And I see that Anne has posted in the chat also some of the questions that have come in.
I hear you, April. It's a lot of information. And you know what? You know, that's what we're here for. So if you want to shoot us an email, you just want to shoot us a message on Facebook, I definitely encourage you to, because it is a lot of information. We got a lot of things for you because we're excited too. I think I can, you know, tackle this first one from Cynthia. You know, should you consider a ground mounted system so you're able to sweep off your array? You know, we have definitely gotten this question, especially with all the snow that we're getting, which is just annoying. And we've definitely talked to installers. We don't want anybody going up on their roofs, their snowy, icy roofs, to try and sweep off their arrays for $2 or $3 off of their energy bill, whatever it is, and then get hurt. Right. Whether or not you should consider a ground mounted system really depends on what your goals are, where you live, and what you want that system to look like. And so that's where that assessment is going to come into play, right? That is when the installer comes out to your house or your building, you talk to them about what you're looking at and what kind of system you should get, and they're going to walk you through that process. So I definitely don't want to be the person to tell you what you should consider. I'm going to let the installer that's going to be putting that on, you know, on your roof or, hey, in your yard, to help you make the best decision.
May I also, if you don't mind, jump in just pretty quickly about keeping the snow off of your system in the winter? That's not a big concern because there really isn't any solar gain in the winter. And, you know, I think others can speak to that more technically, but if you recall Ben's images of how much sun we get in the winter, you're not going to really be gaining anything. So just, you know, in the dead of winter, don't worry about it. This is the time of year though, when some folks do start cleaning off their panels, whether, you know, if you can either wait and let the snow melt off or use a plastic snow rake or a broom if you can reach, if it's up on the roof, or even if it's ground mounted. But, you know, from really like November, December, January, it's not really a concern.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Two things is the panels shed snow very quickly when temperatures get close to freezing. I think as anyone's seen on a greenhouse or anything like that. So they do accumulate snow even with a steep pitch. The other thing is that bifacial panels, so these are solar panels that they look the same from the front and the back side. And they actually produce power from light hitting the front and the back side. And those heat up much quicker in the late winter, early spring, because the sunlight reflecting off the snow onto the backside of the panel is absorbed and it heats the panel. So even if it's a 15-degree day, those panels will shed the snow on a sunny day. Yeah, exactly what Alyssa said. It's only a couple bucks and it's not anything to A, risk getting on the roof for, or B, put on the ground in a spot that might be less optimal year round than a spot on the roof. So she's exactly right. You work with the installer to figure that out.
That's right. Solarize Fairbanks does not have an ambulance fund when you fall off your dang roof or you pull something in your back. Don't do that because I will be sad. We're gonna go to Chris now. Chris, is it possible to help with Solarize Denali? Absolutely. Let's talk. If you want to send us an email or you want to send us a message, or if you want to fill out the sign-up sheet that I put in the chat, and I'm going to put in again so we can connect with you directly, that would be absolutely wonderful, and I will love you forever. Looks like we have a question from Lori. You want an assessment? Yes, again, go ahead, fill out that sign-up sheet. Let us know that you want an assessment, and we'll get cracking there. To Erica's question, yes. Will you folks know who's on the Zoom call? Yeah, we'll go ahead and post all the folks and resources that you saw here today on our Facebook and our website as well. Again, if you have any questions or you want to connect with us further, more than welcome to shoot us an email or message on Facebook. And I see you, Leanne. I did see you signed up. Thank you for being a model to the rest of participant Solarizers, and we will be in touch soon. Is there any more questions that we didn't see or answer?
While you're waiting, Alyssa, I just want to add, kind of jumping off of Erica's question. We are happy to support. And if we can do that by, posting on our Facebook site, which, has some pretty good traction among folks who are interested in solar, or if you want to chat about ways to reach out to others in your community, just please let us know. And not just to Erica, to everyone on this call. Our job is to do that support. Well, our volunteer job.
Awesome. Well, if there are no questions, let's do a final trivia. And it's so quick and easy. I know you're like, I'm tired, I want to eat dinner. But hey, we're excited about Solarize Fairbanks. So, let us know if you're thinking about solarizing this summer. And also let me know, do you want a t-shirt or do you want a sticker? Because this is a thing that we get asked a lot if we have merch. So I'm finally in the space in which I can facilitate that. Let me know if you would like a sticker or t-shirt and we will get them to you. With that, I will let people go and eat dinner. I have some lamb shanks in the crock pot that I can smell from here, and I am hungry. So with that, as we are into our last trivia, if you need to go eat dinner, go potty, or drink some water, please go hydrate and eat and be with your family. Thank you so much for spending 2 hours with us to talk about this exciting program. Again, keep letting us know what you would like to prefer and what you want to see from us. Sign up on that sign up sheet if you are interested in solarizing this year, or even if you're just thinking about it. And we will be in touch with you in very, 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 very short future, like probably tomorrow. Okay. We'll see you on Facebook, email, whatever it is. Have a good night, and thank you again, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.